This company did not collapse because it failed. It collapsed because it succeeded too well. In the 1990s, Enron was called the smartest company in America. Politicians trusted it. Wall Street praised it. Employees believed in it. But behind the numbers was a lie so large it would erase billions and destroy thousands of lives. This is the rise of Enron and the beginning of its deception. In the late 1980s, Enron did not look like a company that would one day become a symbol of corporate deceit. It was, at least on paper, a boring energy business. Houston Natural Gas merged with Internorth in 1985, and the result was Enron, a pipeline company that moved gas from one place to another. No glamour, no mystery, no headlines. But inside that dull shell, ambition was forming. When Jeffrey Skilling joined Enron in 1990, he brought with him an idea that would change everything. He believed Enron should stop acting like a traditional energy company and start behaving like a Wall Street trading firm. Instead of making money by transporting gas, Enron would make money by trading energy contracts, futures, and promises. This idea was revolutionary and dangerously seductive. Skilling introduced a method called mark-to-market accounting. On paper, it was legal. In practice, it was explosive. Mark-to-market allowed Enron to record the estimated future profits of a deal immediately, even if the cash would not arrive for years. If Enron signed a 20-year contract, it could calculate the total expected profit and book it as income on day one. No waiting, no proof, no reality. Just projections. And projections are easy to manipulate. At first, the numbers looked incredible. Enron's revenue soared. The company appeared innovative, smart, and unstoppable. Wall Street loved it. Politicians praised it. Regulators trusted it. Business schools studied it. Enron became a darling of the American corporate world. Behind the scenes, however, the culture was turning toxic. Enron rewarded aggression, risk-taking, and blind loyalty. Employees were ranked every year, and the bottom performers were fired, regardless of context. The system encouraged people to take wild risks, hide losses, and inflate success. If you failed, you disappeared. If you lied, well, you were promoted. Kenneth Lay, the founder and chairman, played the role of the friendly statesman. He spoke softly, donated generously to political campaigns, and cultivated deep relationships in Washington. Enron became one of the most politically connected companies in America. It funded both Democrats and Republicans. It advised governments on energy policy. It helped shape deregulation laws that conveniently benefited Enron's business model. Deregulation was key. As energy markets opened up, Enron expanded aggressively. It traded electricity, gas, water, bandwidth, and even weather derivatives. Anything that could be priced, Enron would trade. It no longer mattered whether these markets were stable or even sensible. What mattered was perception, growth, visibility, excitement. By the late 1990s, Enron was no longer just an energy company. It was a story, a myth, a promise of the future. Its executives spoke in abstract language about innovation and disruption, words that sounded impressive, but explained very little. Analysts nodded anyway. The stock kept rising, but beneath the polished surface, cracks were forming. Some projects were failing badly. Power plants abroad lost money. Trading desks made disastrous bets, but instead of admitting losses, Enron hid them. To do this, Enron created a complex web of off-balanced partnerships. These entities had names like LJM, Chuco, and Raptors. They were designed to absorb Enron's losses and debt, keeping them out of sight. The public financial statements looked clean. The reality was rotten. Even more alarming, these partnerships were often controlled by Enron executives themselves, most notably CFO Andrew Fastow. Fastow was supposed to protect Enron's financial integrity. Instead, he was secretly profiting from the very structures used to hide its failures. This was not a loophole. This was a betrayal. Still, the illusion held. Enron's stock climbed above $90. The company was named America's most innovative company 6 years in a row. Its executives became celebrities. Its employees believed they were untouchable. But markets do not run on stories forever. They run on trust. And trust, once cracked, does not shatter loudly at first. It whispers. By early 2001, analysts began asking simple questions. Where was the cash? If Enron was so profitable, why was it constantly borrowing? Why were its financial statements so hard to understand? Why did every explanation sound like a lecture instead of an answer? Inside Enron, panic was beginning to replace confidence. Some employees sensed the danger. But speaking up was dangerous. The culture punished doubt. Silence was safer. The machine kept running, but the gears were grinding, and soon the noise would become impossible to ignore. By 2001, Enron looked unstoppable. But inside the company, a single question was spreading quietly. Where was the cash? And once that question was asked, the collapse could no longer be stopped. This is how Enron hid billions in plain sight. By mid-2001, the gap between Enron's public image and its internal reality had become a chasm. The company looked strong from the outside, but inside, it was bleeding cash. The profits reported on paper were not matched by real money flowing in. This was the fatal flaw of Mark II market accounting. When projections failed, there was nothing underneath to support them. The off-balance sheet entities were now doing heavy lifting. They were no longer hiding small problems. They were hiding structural failure. Billions of dollars in debt were being pushed into shadows, where investors could not see them. And the more Enron relied on these structures, the more fragile the system became. Andrew Fasto's role became increasingly dangerous. He structured partnerships that technically met accounting rules, but violated every ethical boundary. He convinced Enron's board to approve them, using complex language and selective disclosure. Many board members later claimed they did not fully understand what they were approving. That was precisely the point. The Raptors, Enron's most infamous entities, were designed to hedge Enron's investments. If an Enron asset lost value, the Raptor would absorb the loss. But here was the trick. The Raptors were funded, largely with Enron's own stock. This meant Enron was effectively hedging itself. If the stock price fell, the hedge collapsed. This was not protection, it was a time bomb. In the meantime, Enron executives continued selling their personal shares, while publicly praising the company and encouraging employees to buy stock. Top leaders quietly cashed out. Hundreds of millions of dollars were made by insiders, while rank-and-file workers had their retirement savings locked into Enron shares. Political protection delayed scrutiny. Enron had allies in high places. The company lobbied aggressively against regulation. It had direct access to policymakers. The revolving door between Enron and government agencies spun freely. This influence did not stop the collapse, but it slowed the response, allowing the damage to grow. The first major public crack came when CEO Jeffrey Skilling abruptly resigned in August 2001. He cited personal reasons, but the market sensed trouble. Skilling knew the numbers. He knew the structure was failing. His exit was a signal, even if few understood it at the time. Shortly after, an internal memo written by Vice President Sharon Watkins reached Kenneth Lay. She warned that Enron could implode in a wave of accounting scandals. Her language was cautious, but the message was clear. The company was in danger. Lay did not act decisively. He consulted lawyers. He reassured investors, repeated the same optimistic talking points, but optimism could not refill empty accounts. As scrutiny increased, Enron was forced to restate its earnings. The numbers were worse than feared. Hidden losses surfaced. Credit rating agencies took notice when Enron's rating was downgraded. It triggered clauses requiring immediate repayment of massive debts. This was the moment the illusion broke. Banks stopped lending. Partners pulled away. Confidence evaporated. Enron's stock price collapsed, falling from over $90 to single digits in weeks. Employees watched their savings vanish. They showed up to work every day, unsure if the doors would still be open. Arthur Andersen, Enron's auditing firm, was drawn into the storm. Andersen had approved Enron's accounting for years. It had raised concerns internally, but failed to act publicly. As investigations began, documents were shredded. The act itself became a scandal. Andersen's reputation, once legendary, was destroyed. The media turned ruthless. What had been celebrated as innovation was now exposed as deception. What had been complexity was revealed as concealment. The story was no longer about energy. It was about greed. In November 2001, Enron admitted the truth it could no longer hide. The debts were overwhelming. The cash was gone. The structure was unsustainable. The fall was no longer avoidable. It was inevitable. The collapse of Enron did not start with bankruptcy. It started with silence. When the truth finally surfaced, it moved faster than anyone expected. Jobs disappeared, savings disappeared, and the people who caused it walked away rich. This is how Enron fell and why its lessons still matter today. On December 2nd, 2001, Enron filed for bankruptcy. It was the largest corporate collapse in U.S. history at the time. Over 20,000 employees lost their jobs. Entire careers vanished overnight. Retirement accounts were wiped out. Families were devastated. The executives who had preached loyalty walked away wealthy. Kenneth Lay claimed ignorance until his death in 2006. Jeffrey Skilling was convicted of fraud and insider trading and sentenced to prison. Andrew Fastow pleaded guilty and became the highest-ranking executive to go to jail. He admitted the deception, but insisted the system encouraged it. The trials revealed a disturbing truth. Enron was not an isolated anomaly. It was a product of its environment, a culture that worshipped growth over substance, innovation over accountability, deregulation over oversight. Political leaders distanced themselves. Many returned campaign donations quietly. Regulators promised reform. The public demanded answers. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act was passed, aimed at tightening corporate governance and accounting standards. It was a response to Enron and to the fear that other Enrons were hiding in plain sight. But laws do not change culture overnight. Arthur Andersen collapsed, its name erased from the industry. A $5 billion firm destroyed not by insolvency, but by the loss of trust. This was collateral damage, proof that deception spreads outward, consuming everything connected to it. For employees, the pain was personal. They had believed in the company. They had trusted leadership. They had followed the rules, and they paid the highest price. The Enron story became a warning taught in classrooms, a case study cited in boardrooms. But its deeper lesson was often softened. Enron did not fail because of one bad decision. It failed because the system rewarded illusion and punished honesty. At every stage, there were chances to stop it. Accountants could have pushed harder. Boards could have asked simpler questions. Regulators could have intervened sooner. Executives could have told the truth. But each chose convenience over courage. In the end, Enron proved that complexity can be used as a weapon, that numbers can lie legally, that political access can delay, but not prevent collapse. Markets can forgive mistakes. They do not forgive betrayal, and when trust dies, the fall is always faster than the rise. Enron proved that numbers can lie legally, power can delay justice, trust can be sold, and when it finally breaks, the fall is always faster than the rise. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more videos like this.